Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guests today are Ryan Schonfeld and Jordan Hill. Ryan is the CEO and founder, and Jordan is the head of product at HiveWatch. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
No, it's my pleasure. So, guys, before we jump into who HiveWatch are and what you guys are doing, can you each give a brief background of your journey in tech, a little 60-second overview of who you are? We'll start with yourself, Ryan, move on to you, Jordan, and then we'll come back around to HiveWatch.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it brief, but Ryan Schonfeld, I'm a recovering law enforcement officer. Started my career as a police officer, transitioned to private security, corporate security, and I think it's important to distinguish physical security as opposed to cyber, which is a whole other realm. And ran security and investigations for some of the largest companies in the world, both as an end user and then as a consultant, and found how frustrating it was, the inability to bring together data from all of the different sources that were out there. Our job as security practitioners was to keep people safe, and it was very hard to do that effectively and in a tech-forward way that wasn't so reliant on throwing more guards and human capital at the problem. HiveWatch is our response to that and finding a way to pull together these disparate data sources, sense, make, and reduce noise, and really optimize people's security programs, because at the end of the day, our mission at HiveWatch and the mission for security organizations is protecting people.
Thank you for that, Ryan, and we'll definitely come back to the mission of HiveWatch in a bit more detail. But Jordan, give us a bit of background on yourself, please.
Hey, I'm Jordan Hill. Background's mostly been in early stage startups. I'm head of product here at HiveWatch, but I've always had a really keen interest in the intersection between software and hardware and the analytics behind it. So I've led multiple product teams at early stage technology companies trying to infer the real world through combining software and hardware data for internal operations, government compliance, and even safety. And just being able to use new hardware to tackle real world and physical problems has always been a huge passion of mine.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Jordan. You and I are going to talk more on the tech and product side in a bit. But Ryan, coming back to yourself, you gave some insight there based on your own journey and how you came up with the idea for HiveWatch. But taking a step back from a 10,000-foot view, for anyone not familiar with HiveWatch, who are you as a business? What is the mission of the organization, and what are you guys trying to do for your customers? And then walk us through the journey from the idea to where you're at today.
Sure. So HiveWatch's mission is to help organizations protect people through the intelligent orchestration of their physical security programs. And so what that means is we act as the operating system through which companies can run these programs, and it's orchestrating data from different platforms. At its most basic level, there's camera systems and card access control systems. There's situational awareness data. That's events that are happening around the world. It can be geopolitical events, it can be natural disasters and earthquakes, and anything that has the ability to cause harm to people, disruption to business operations and business continuity. And one of the things we found is that there's this immense amount of data out there. The ability to sense make across these disparate platforms has been challenging. And then one of the words that we use a lot in our marketing, but also in what drives product and innovation, is noise and noise reduction. And what that really means is we found that these programs are operating at a high 90% rate of inefficiency. And it's inefficiency because they're receiving alerts, whether it's through building automation systems, card and camera systems, or even intel and social media data that really isn't meaningful or impactful. And so the majority of the time of these security operators' job is spent addressing things that don't actually require human intervention. They don't require anything to be actioned, and they don't actually pose a risk to the organization. And so when we look at denoising, that's really what we're talking about. Is we want we want to optimize what we're using people for and making sure that the things that they see and the things that are elevated to them for actioning are truly impactful and actually are a risk to the business.
So Jordan, your role as the head of product, you oversee various aspects of getting HiveWatch to market and working with the customers. But intertwined in all of that is your background in technology. You started as a data engineer yourself. Can you give us some insight into what it's like day to day, the combination of working with the product side, with the engineering team? Walk us through a typical project and just what impact this is having for your users and customers.
So I think we're really fortunate as an organization to have both an internal customer with our HiveWatch Swarm product, which is a virtual GSOC or Global Security Operations Center, that we can first dog food and test the products that we deploy. But initially, it's been starting with a lot of the insight that Ryan's had from the physical security side, and then the analytics background that I've had to be able to create a product that presents like the actual performance of the GSOC is a good example. Basically, we'll take a feature, decompose it, expose like the data into our product, work with designers from across the world to then build out what this vision looks like from lo-fis. And then we sync with our engineering team and figure out how to put it together and deploy it internally in our GSOC. And before we push it out to our existing customers, there's a lot of problems along these like, different pieces, especially in the physical security side, where you have vendors there's the onboarding process of getting customers started to even just being able to deploy in their own environment. So it's really depending on which team we're talking to. If it's onboarding, it's customer success. If it's actually the performance or usage of the platform, we can talk internally. And then if it's even getting net new features or talking about the feasibility with explicit customers, Ryan and myself will go out and visit customers on site and frankly dog food our own product as we release new features.
I want to spend a bit more time now looking at the technology behind all of this. Obviously, the title of this podcast is AI in Action, and part of what we're trying to do is cut through the hype behind AI by having people working in technology talk about how they utilize data, analytics, machine learning, engineering to bring their product to market. Can you give us some insight into what it's like to be part of the technology team at HiveWatch, the current makeup, the mix of various roles, and what it's like day to day to be part of that culture and how you guys go about working on engineering projects?
So I can address that from a company's values perspective, and then Jordan can talk a little bit more from a technological perspective. But I think regardless of your role on the team at HiveWatch, whether it's in engineering or data or customer success operations, we really hire against the set of values, which as a leadership team, we spend a lot of time developing, and to the point where we actually posted it on our website. So on the HiveWatch careers page are 6 values of encouraging individuality, increased transparency, respect and value people, passion for safety and security, drive innovation, embrace a growth mindset. And we really look at the decisions we make, both in terms of hiring, but also in terms of product evolution, technology decisions, and how does that all align with where we're going as an organization. It's a very collaborative environment, but we also have a lot of great feedback from the industry and the customers that help the technology team understand, whether it's AI or anything else for that matter, how it drives product decisions and also how it's going to be utilized in practice.
Yeah, I think that's a really big part to note is that as an engineering or technology team or company in general, we're not looking to just add other pieces on the spec sheet. We're trying to materially improve physical security operations for our customers. So if it's not driving towards reducing noise, if it's not driving towards creating a better experience for the operators that are resolving incidents, if it's not quick getting information faster to program managers who are responsible for the physical security posture of a company, we're not going to just build some machine learning module to say that we're doing ML. We're going to find out the nuanced way that it can actually deeply impact performance.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Ryan, I want to spend a bit of time talking about what the last 2 years in particular have been like. just with all the disruption that's been caused by the pandemic, and you guys have still been able to consistently grow not just your customer base but your own internal headcount. What are some of the reasons that you guys have been able to sustain the success? And when you look ahead now for 2022 and beyond, where do you see the business growing post pandemic?
Obviously, we didn't predict COVID. However, one of the things that the pandemic has really brought to light for organizations, particularly with regard to their physical security programs, is how antiquated and disconnected they were. And when organizations had to quickly shift to remote, how complex it was, and in many cases impossible to run their security operations without people being physically tied to within the confines of a security operations center. For organizations in general, what COVID meant from a security perspective is exponentially more complexity in terms of what it means to protect your people. And a term we use a lot in security is duty of care. And what it means to protect your people when they're working from home is not about putting cameras and card readers and stuff in people's houses, but it's understanding that if there's a earthquake and you've got 40 employees that may be impacted by that, and what that means both for the employee and for the business. And so HiveWatch was very well positioned to help organizations go remote, even something as simple as operating in the cloud versus on-prem, which sounds ridiculous, but in physical security, that's been largely unheard of previously. And so that complexity of a distributed workforce has really helped HiveWatch in terms of its value to the organization. For us in general, we're just have come out of stealth a few months ago with an impressive customer list and quite the wait list of organizations. So our growth internally is not slowing anytime soon. We're continuing to hire great people who are aligned with our value, and that's going to continue to also exponentially increase over the coming months.
Ryan, hiring while in stealth mode is always particularly challenging because you don't have any public content to share about your brand. It's really just down to the message when you're speaking to the candidates. You've obviously done it very successfully over the past few years, and now that you're coming out with stealth, you've got this message that you can share with people. When you sit down with candidates who are potentially interested in a career move, whether they're data scientists, engineers, analytics, or just general people who are looking for a new opportunity, what is it that you tell them that gets them interested in HiveWatch over some of the other great opportunities out there?
There's a couple things, and frankly, the answer hasn't really changed from when we were in stealth to now when we're out. We're just able to shout it from the rooftops a little bit more. And it's really a couple things. One is resonating, getting our message to resonate, our mission to resonate with those folks, and protecting people, and that we're not just building another app or another product, another consumer product. What we're doing is about protecting people and saving lives, and doing it in a way that's never been done before. And so that's the other piece, is solving new problems in a space, physical security, that for decades hasn't been disrupted and is still one of the most antiquated industries on the planet, but also incredibly high impact in terms of what a positive outcome from security actually means in the real world. And what we found is, again, regardless of whether it's data science or any position, that getting people to resonate with what we're doing and why we're doing it, and really the opportunity, is what we've led with all along.
Jordan, switching that question slightly over to customer facing on the product side. Obviously, what you guys are doing is very innovative and quite unique in this space. So when you're speaking to prospective customers, what are the key things that you highlight that has got them to buy into HiveWatch? As Ryan has mentioned, is already an impressive customer base. So the message is working. Anything you can share with us that hopefully some future customers can pick up on?
I think the biggest piece is prioritizing customer experience. Being able to provide the best in class customer experience as a security company is like a really big deal, especially when shit hits the fan, or being there to be able to help through complex onboarding. Having a bunch of resources there and showing they're putting a bunch of resources there, and showing that we're not just pushing the sale, but listening to customers throughout the life cycle and deployment of new features is a huge piece. Customers have so much to share about, like Ryan was mentioning before, about how antiquated the space has been, that there are so many things that have been workarounds that have become institutionalized in the industry. And we're coming in to rethink with leading edge technology. How really should we be thinking about physical security? What is the most important right now? And then showing with merit rather than with spec sheet listings.
And I'd add that if you look at the historical landscape of our space, what the customer experience historically has been is purchasing technology through a complex distribution model where the customer rarely has direct access to the manufacturer and to support, where they're generally deploying complex on-prem solutions with a 14-month average implementation timeframe with millions of dollars of capital expenditure and really very little ROI to show for that. And when you talk to a customer about a truly cloud native application we can deploy in 30 days and the value that we're bringing and the reduction of noise and what that actually means for the program, that's really resonated with them.
Final question from me, Ryan. Now that you're out of stealth, you can really talk about the plans going forward. You guys have been able to build a great core team in a relatively short space of time, and you're now looking at significant growth in 2022 and beyond. Can you give us some insight into where you see the team and the business being in a year's time from now, and particularly on the AI and data side? What opportunities are there going to be for people to come on and join who are potentially interested in this type of space?
Yeah, and I think one of the things for us as we grow the team and onboard more and more customers is we'll, of course, add more products and more innovation. But a big focus for us is making sure that our core product is solid and always getting better and better, that the noise reduction and that the intelligence behind the platform, which is what touches ML models and all of that, continues to drive our innovation and is the core focus of how we grow and how we build, not just about adding more modules constantly and forgetting about the core reason that companies went with us and for our platform. I think our history with being in other startups and seeing other startups is there's this inclination to just keep adding more features and not be absolutely great at that core thing. And that's something that we're very focused on, not being us.
Ryan, Jordan, thank you both so much for coming on today and talking to us. I really appreciate you sharing the origin story behind HiveWatch, what the journey has been like today, talking about the impact of customers, the focus on customer experience, and then the growth in store. It sounds like it could be a great place to work for anyone who's interested in the combination of use of AI and data while also having an impact on security. So we wish you guys all the best in the year ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.